The other day I commented that I was preheating my anvil, and we've talked about this a little bit before in past midwinter videos, but it's probably been more than a year. So I thought I would address very briefly why you may want to preheat your anvil and when you may want to preheat your anvil. Now generally I think there are 3 reasons you might want to preheat your anvil. The number one reason is it is theoretically possible to actually break an anvil if it's too cold. Now, I've never seen that happen. I've never known anybody that had it happen. But I have heard stories about people working really hard on an anvil in very extreme cold temperatures and actually breaking the heel or the horn off of an anvil. Particularly with old wrought anvils that are made largely out of wrought iron. It's a forge welding project, and some of those welds may not be perfect, and I suspect that's probably where the failure occurs. And after mentioning this in an earlier video, some people have commented that they've actually witnessed this happen. They've been there when somebody broke an anvil. I don't know how cold it has to be before you worry about breaking an anvil. For me, I try to preheat it anytime it's below 20 degrees in the shop when I get here in the morning, or if it's just been bitter cold for the last day. Even if it's starting to warm up this day, it takes a long time for an anvil to come up to heat. So that's the main reason people preheat the anvil. It's to protect their anvil. Old anvils are hard to find, new anvils are very expensive. And why take a chance on breaking it if taking an extra half an hour in the morning to heat up some big pieces of plate, set them on your anvil, and I do this 3 or 4 times. I heat up one area, I heat up another area, reheat the plate. You know, that plate's still way too hot to touch, but where it's been sitting on the anvil, I can put my hand on that. There isn't a big risk of softening the hard tool steel face of your anvil with a piece of 1/2-inch plate. The other primary reason for preheating your anvil is that a cold anvil sucks the heat out of your work really fast. You have to go back to the fire and reheat more often. That's just inefficient. So if you can preheat your anvil, bring it up even 30 or 40 degrees warmer than it was when you got here, you might get a little bit more working time out of a piece. And that is especially important in smaller, more delicate pieces that cool off instantly when you get to the anvil on a really cold day. For that matter, it may be worth working heavier material on cold days, and that helps preheat your anvil. The forge helps preheat the shop, and then do the more delicate work once everything is warm and up to temperature. Now, I mentioned that there were 3 reasons to preheat an anvil. Now, the third reason is essentially the same as the second reason, but it's from a different perspective, and that is if you are working tool steel. You can bring even a fairly large piece of tool steel to your anvil. You bring it out, you put it down. The section that is in contact with the anvil cools much faster. And if your anvil is cold, it's going to cool very fast. And you could actually create microfractures. You're hardening that surface of the tool steel. Even though the surface is still hot enough to forge, it looks great. But that part next to the anvil might just be a little bit stressed from cooling off too fast at the anvil, especially if you're working air hardening steels. So preheating your anvil before you work tool steels really makes good sense. So that's just a few quick thoughts on preheating your anvil. I think it's worth doing. It's much easier if you have a gas forge to heat up these big pieces of plate like this. But you can heat stuff up in a coal forge, whatever you have. This is just a piece of scrap I have laying around. At one point I had some that fit the anvil surface very nicely. I had handles welded on them, had a ring you could hang on the wall, and they still managed to disappear. I'll probably make some more of those one of these days. But in the meantime, whatever you got in the scrap pile that's fairly big and chunky, heat it up, set it on your anvil, go get another cup of coffee, and you'll have a better day in the forge. I hope you found that information useful. Give it a thumbs up if you did. If you haven't done so already, I would love it if you hit that subscribe button. Feel free to stick around, watch a few of the other videos, share the videos with your friends. But then if it's not too cold, make time in your day to get out to your shop, make something, but stay safe. Wear your safety glasses. We'll see you for the next one.